Yes, we have a question from the Finance Sector Union of Australia. Despite a difficult year, ANZ has performed well, in large part due to the hard work and dedication of your staff. ANZ staff have worked tirelessly through what has been an emotionally and physically taxing year. The Chairman spoke of the importance of the 4 Cs, one of them being culture within ANZ. Despite this, he stated that a 2% pay rise for some staff was totally deserved and appropriate. How does ANZ justify this 2% pay increase for Group 5 and 6 staff and no pay increase for Group 4 staff when other banks are paying 3% or more? Mr Elliott said he was proud of how ANZ staff have contributed this year, yet these remuneration outcomes are leaving committed staff feeling disrespected and undervalued.
Look, thank you for the question, and it's a very important topic as to how we make sure that there is equity and recognition for the performance of people, particularly in the front line. But I'll take it in a couple of parts. First of all, I think it's very important to say that it's not apples with apples. It's not simply a case that you can compare our remuneration arrangements with those at other banks. We have different arrangements and different frameworks. And if I take the second part of that, I think in putting some context as to how we do remunerate with frontline staff, if you look at our pay reward system over the last 5 years, since 2016, and we look at the increases we've applied, then we've been able to increase staff under the EBA in Australia and those under the CEA, IEA in New Zealand by approximately 14 to 15% over that period, which we hope is seen as us wanting to make sure we're remunerating effectively and appropriately. We do very much appreciate the amazing contribution given by our frontline staff every day. We know our customers value that as well. And I just want to reassure that in an environment where there are no pay increases for overall staff at the bank, we have made sure that this year there will be an increase, as I said earlier, for staff on the EBA and IEA, CEA arrangements in New Zealand.
Yes, thank you, Chair. A question here from the Finance Sector Union of Australia. ANZ staff have had a remarkable year, with some transitioning to assisting customers from home, while others have continued to serve their communities in the retail branch network throughout the pandemic, at risk to themselves and their families. We appreciate the comments recognising the incredible contribution of staff to the strong results being reported today. In this context, staff are experiencing increased workloads, unpaid overtime, and the stress of working with customers facing financial hardship and emotional distress. What commitments can the Board make to ANZ staff who feel they are working harder and under increased pressure with no recognition?
Thank you, Ken, and I absolutely agree with the sentiment of the question and comments. I think it's been just outstanding the way our frontline staff have responded to the crisis. As Shane mentioned in his speech, we had 95% of our people move to working from home right at the beginning of the crisis, and unlike some of our competitors, there was no major hiccup in terms of our customer support or ability to meet our customers' needs. As you've seen in the remuneration report, the Board did apply discretion in the last 12 months to remuneration for executives. We applied a 50% reduction in their at-risk or variable pay. Likewise, we've announced this year that there will be no pay increases for management or for the executive in the bank. However, in recognition of the outstanding work that's been done by the frontline staff, for those staff who are covered by the Enterprise Agreement in Australia or the CEA, IEA in New Zealand, we have agreed to apply a 2% pay increase. Some people might argue that in the COVID environment we shouldn't be paying any increases, but we think, given the outstanding performance of our frontline, that these are appropriate and justified. And Shane, you might want to add to that.
Yeah, look, and thanks for the question. And it's really good that that we do acknowledge the great work our frontline have done in really difficult circumstances. And I agree with all of the sentiment in the question. I just want to point out a couple of other things we've done to give shareholders a little bit more information. We also put our resources into some well-being support. So a lot of people were struggling in terms of not just if they were in a branch, but also working at home, particularly as I mentioned with young children and other stresses. And we built a well-being app. We gave access to psychological support for mental well-being and others. We put in place special pandemic leave for those that might be caring for a loved one at home or who were struggling in terms of looking after their children or who are unable to cope with some of the stresses depending on their personal situation. And really importantly, we allocated 2 days thank you leave to all employees to recognise the extra effort that people had gone to through what was a very challenging year. Now, what I will say is that what we were really pleased to see was just the overwhelming support of our people, and that came through in the engagement survey. So for shareholders who may not be familiar with that, we survey our staff regularly just to see are things going okay? Are they coping? Are they happy? Do they feel well supported? Do they understand what the priorities are? And our staff, it hit a high of 86% of our people telling us that they were incredibly engaged at the bank and felt well supported. And despite the challenges, what's really exciting and very rewarding as a leader in the bank is that despite those challenges and dealing with customers in difficult circumstances, as you point out in your question, people felt enormously proud of what they were able to do. And we've been sharing a lot of those stories right across the bank to sort of just reinforce that sense of purpose and value in what our people do every day. Thank you.
Yes, we have a question from the Finance Sector Union of Australia. We note the Chair's comments regarding a reduction in executive variable remuneration. However, even with this reduction, executive remuneration increases are substantially above the 0% to 2% increases being received by the majority of your staff. How does the Board justify these high salary increases for executives with below-market increases for staff?
Look, thank you for the question. I think, again, it's an important question for people to be able to get comfortable and understand the remuneration framework. For non-executive staff, they're on a different framework where the majority of their pay is fixed, and there's a small amount which relates to the group performance dividend. Typically, over 90% of non-executive pay is not at risk. It's very different when you get to the executive, where, as I've mentioned earlier, up to 70% of annual remuneration is at risk, and the award of that is based on the items we've outlined in the annual report, both on short-term variable remuneration and on long-term variable remuneration. If you look at the disclosed executives in the annual report this year, those who were in the same role last year and compare their year-on-year pay, actually that's fallen by 15% year-on-year, reflecting the performance of the bank and indeed reflecting what's been the impact on the market overall. So I hope that gives you some confidence that we do reflect performance very strongly in executive pay, and there is a much higher percentage of pay at risk for the executive than for the average staff member in the bank. We think that's the most equitable and appropriate way in which to remunerate.